Hi, this is Chris with My Arduino Tips, and today we're going to have a basic introduction to connecting to an Arduino or other type of devices like the basic stamp that I have here as well. This video is intended for beginners that are starting out with microcontrollers and wanting to understand some of the options that you have in terms of wiring and connecting to these devices. So we're going to start out with some terminology, and then I'll show you some options that you have and give my opinion as to which ones I like and how they work. So the first thing we want to look at is, let's look at the Arduino, and we see here at the bottom we have this row of black connectors. This is called a female header. Obviously it's female because it has the receptacle, as opposed to this here, which is a male header that has the pins. Likewise, there's a female header here, and these are used to connect to the Arduino. Analog and digital inputs and outputs are exposed through these female headers. If you look at the basic stamp at the top, I have a dual row female header here and a single row female header here. These are referred to by the size of the header. So this bottom one here would be a 1x6. This up here is a 2x10. And that's important because as you look for cables and connectors that are compatible, you want to make sure that you're ordering the right thing. So it's the number of rows by the number of pins. So the bottom one here again is a 1x6. The other important thing to note is the pin spacing. So what is the distance between this hole and the hole next to it? And that will vary depending on what you're using. But for all the Arduinos, the breadboards such we see here, the basic stamp, the Raspberry Pi, luckily they all have the same spacing, and that is 0.1 inches. So from pin to pin, 0.1 inches or 2.54 millimeters. And that makes it really handy because now we can have cables and connectors that are interchangeable between our different projects. You also notice this here. This is called a male breakaway header. Obviously it's male because it has the pins, and it's breakaway because they're scored between each set of pins, and you can break those into any length that you would like from one pin. They come in 40 pin lengths. And these can be placed into the female header, and then you could solder wires to that or connect to it with a female cable. And I have some female cables as an example. Here's one that I purchased, and that could plug right into that male connector. But let's start a little bit more basic at first. So most people, when they start out, you'll have wires such as this. They are pre-stripped solid wires, 22 gauge, and they come in a variety of colors. And they work well for being able to breadboard things. You can place it in the connection in the female header, place it into your breadboard, and then make other connections, whether you're connecting just a simple LED or maybe multiple connections to a graphic LCD. That's how most people start out. It's cheap, it's easy, they're readily available, but they can be messy and not very durable. So what I mean by that is, the more of these you get, since they're rigid, if you don't have the exact right length just to go straight from point to point, and you do what I did here, the wiring can get sort of a rat's nest and be a little bit difficult to troubleshoot. That's why you want to make sure you have multiple colors available and color code things as much as possible. But also, since these are rigid wires, if you bump them and it pulls out one wire, it's likely it may pull out multiple wires, and then you have to rewire things to get your project back to where it was. So that's an option. It's cheap and easy. Most people will start there, and I do a lot of the prototyping with these in the initial steps, and then afterwards I'll make up some cables that I'll show you here in a little bit. The next option is to use single jumper wires, and these jumper wires can be purchased from a number of sources online. Here's an example. They come pre-crimped with the connectors on them, and they're ready-made just to plug right into the female headers. They do come in both male and female ends, so you can order those whatever works best with your project. If I had a female end, I could place right on this male header, and those are nice as well. But since if you're ordering them in single wire lengths or configurations, they have a lot of the same problems as the pre-stripped wires that we just talked about, other than these come in a stranded configuration, so they don't hold their shape. You can take a group of these and put shrink wrap around them and group them into a bundle, and it makes it a little easier to manage. So they're inexpensive, but they can be messy, and typically you're going to have a lot of these the same lengths. 3-inch, 6-inch, or 12-inch length is typical. The next option is to buy some pre-built conductor cables. Here's an example. I purchased this. It is a 4-conductor with female connectors on both ends. Now this can be purchased in other configurations as well. I could have a male-female, a male-male, or a female-female like I have there. And these are nice. They're pre-made. You can buy them in connections that may have 2 wires, 3, 4, all the way up to, I know I've seen 8. I don't know beyond that. I haven't had a need for anything more than 8 wires. But they are nice. The only downfall that I've seen is that they are contiguous, meaning that if I want to connect all of these pins here, there's 6 pins there, but those pins are going to different places on a board. I need to be able to split those out. So let me show you what I mean. Here's a cable that I made that has a 1x6 connector on this end. You notice I only have 5 wires plugged into it because I only had a 1x6 available. I didn't have a 1x5. And most of the wires are going straight to the other end to this male connector. This is a 1x4 male. And then I have one of the wires split off. So what happens is these can plug right into the Arduino. This wire plugs into the reset, and then this could connect to some other board or some other component within my project. So it makes it very easy to make custom wires, and let me show you how that works. I looked at a number of places to find these and finally found these pre-crimped wires at a place called Pololu. And Pololu has these wires available in a couple configurations. This is male, female, and then those wires plug into these crimp housings. So if I take one of these crimp housings out, I'll show you how that works. I can take whatever end I want, plug it into the crimp housing, it slides in, you'll hear it snap, and now it's in there. Now I can remove these as well. There's a black tab right there that if I lift up very gently, I'll be able to slide the pin back out and reuse it. Now I usually use the end of an X-Acto knife to gently pry up on that black tab, and then you can reuse these connectors or if you make a mistake. So those are very nice. This is one of the connectors I made for one of the graphical LCD displays. It's very simple to use. Here's another example. That's something I'm working on. This is a 1x6 here, and then you see that I'm connecting to this display, but I haven't put the header on yet. So once I figure out the correct wiring, I'll slide these off, put them onto a header, and then I'll have another custom cable. The other thing to notice or to explain is I mentioned this is called a JST connector. This connector is referred to as a DuPont, D-U-P-O-N-T. And DuPont connectors are what you'll find them listed as when you go to places like DigiKey or Mouser. So hopefully that was helpful. If you're a beginner, these are some things you may want to take into consideration. Have plenty of wiring options, and I do really believe that these custom cables that you can make with the pre-crimp terminals are the way to go. I'm going to be creating some other videos, so please subscribe. I'm going to show how to use some TFT displays, the LCDs, also some 4-digit LED displays, and a couple other surprises. Thanks.